How long does it take to reach a big goal like writing a book or moving to a foreign country? In this video, I'm going to share with you how long it took me, recovering overthinker, to do that, and what I've learned about reaching big goals and ways to work through some of the things that hold us back, like overthinking and over planning. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have already subscribed to my channel, I appreciate that. If you have not, please consider doing so that you can be notified that each time I upload a video about life in France, moving abroad, or finding the confidence and courage to live life on your terms. I'm Patricia Brooks, and I live in the south of France and have for the past 5 years. And I did so because I made a decision and then followed some steps that got me here. And I'm so glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone. I faced my fears, moved through my fears to do it because it has been an amazing experience. And today I want to share with you one of the things that might be holding you back from reaching your dreams more quickly. All right. So how long did it take, or how long does it take to make a move abroad? This question reminds me of that old Tootsie Pop commercial where the little boy asks the owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And the owl says, well, let's see. And he snatches the lollipop from the little boy and he starts licking. He goes 1, 2, 3. And he bites into the Tootsie Pop Tootsie Roll and he gets to the center of the Tootsie Pop. And he says 3. At the end of the commercial, the commentator says,
how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
And I think that this question is a little bit like that, but you can learn a lot from how long it has taken other people who have done what you want to do to kind of get a sense of what could be possible. Your situation might be different. If you have children who you want to get through high school, that can add time on. But I'm saying from the time that you have that freedom to actually make that move abroad, how long does it really have to take? For me, I got this dream back in 2014 timeframe. And I remember talking about this with a friend and coworker. And she said, well, how long do you think it'll take you to make your move? 5 years? And when she said that, that made me kind of cringe because I thought, ooh, 5 years, that seems like an awfully long time. I didn't want it to take that long. And I kind of swatted that idea away. And I went about my business. I really didn't do a whole lot of planning or preparing because I really didn't believe it was possible for me. So I didn't really, take the reins and do what was necessary. But it took me between 2.5 and 3 years to actually make my move, from the time that I had written down that, yes, I wanted to live in France in a house with red shutters, which still hasn't happened yet, but that's on my dream board, my vision board, to get here. And it took me less than 5 years from what my friend had suggested. And I say that only to say it doesn't have to take as long as you think it has to. For me, I did get hung up, but not in overthinking or over planning and preparing like I would have many years earlier, but in the fear that if I did the research to find out how much it would cost me or how much I needed to have to show that I could get a visitor visa for France, and if I didn't have that amount, then my dream would be dashed forever. And so I just avoided doing that until I could avoid it no longer, that my dream of wanting to live in France just became so powerful that I hired a coach who, asked me that very question and made me find out the answer, an answer that I was happy to find out I had in my savings, right? So the thing that held me back from moving to France a little sooner, it might have shaved a year off of my timeline, was that I avoided finding out information, right? However, I know that a lot of people struggle with reaching their goals because they over plan, they overthink, and they get stuck in research. And then they start to have doubts and fears. And that slows them down, stalls them, or stops them altogether. And that's not really a good place to be. I recently did an interview with one of the members of the Carefree Expat Incubator Program, Shannon Griffin, and you can see that video up here. And in that, she recently made a move to France, and in that video, she talks about how 4 years was a long time to want to live in Paris, France, and not already be there. And she has 3 children. And so that was one of the things that she had to care for before she could make her move abroad, and to get the permission of her ex-husband to, have them live with her in Paris, France. But what she said was once she finally got that permission, she saw herself as not moving forward. There was still something that was holding her back. And she realized that she needed help getting unstuck, moving through the blocks that held her in Richmond, Virginia. And I think part of that was the overthinking that came along with, I've got 3 children to support and take care of. And this doesn't necessarily fit what I've seen other people do. And that was really something that was, I wouldn't say paralyzing, but really slowed down her progress until she got help, till she started to recognize the things that were blocking her, move through them so that she could move to France in a shorter period of time. All right. So that is to say that I do want to speak on the topic of overthinking, because I think this is a big block for many people. When I was in school, I was an overthinker and an overplanner. If I had a paper to complete and it was due in 4 weeks' time, when did I start working on it? I started working on it the minute that I knew that I had this assignment. So I'd go home and I'd start, outlining what I needed to write, and then start doing research. And it took me the whole 4 weeks to write this paper. Now, the paper really got written probably in that last week, but I did a lot of spinning, a lot of overthinking, a lot of, I want this to be perfect. And in that, I wasted a lot of time. I worried, right? It was a very stressful process to overthink and start to write a paper that wasn't due for 4 weeks. And that is the way that I operated for many, many years. As an overthinker, as a perfectionist, as somebody who wanted to get it right. And it was hard. It was hard to work in this way. And there is an adage, it's Parkinson's law, that the work will expand to fit the allotted time to complete it. And I think that's so true. But that's who I was. I was a worrier, and I felt like I needed every extra minute to do as well as somebody else. And so that's the way I worked. I remember I dated a PhD physics student when I was in graduate school, and he was brilliant, and we lived together. And I remember he worked the complete opposite way. He was what I call a brinksman, somebody who waits to the last minute to start something. And he would have this big physics paper that was just, something I could not even imagine writing, right? He had this, and he would start the night before, and he'd do an all-nighter, and he'd be working out the problems on the whiteboard in the living room, and he was calm about it. He didn't have a problem with that, but I was the one that was worrying, oh my gosh, is he going to get it done? Is he going to get a good grade? I was the worrier. I was the overthinker. I was the overpreparer. He'd do it, stay up all night, get it done, and get a good grade. And I think I learned something from that. It took me a while to get the idea that I don't necessarily have to use 3 extra weeks to do something I could do in a week. Now, Are you an overthinker or an overplanner? Give this video a thumbs up if you are. All right. So now you know that it took me 2.5, maybe 3 years to make my move abroad. Another member of my program, she started and it took her 4 years, but really only about less than 18 months went from the time she started my program. So it doesn't really have to take that long. But what if you are an overthinker or an overplanner? How can you work through that so that you can give yourself some space and not worry or not start something too far in advance? Or if you have the time, use that time more wisely instead of spinning with worry. Well, I think for me, one of the things that helped me to get to this place was experience. So there were several experiences. One was sometimes at work, I was given a very short deadline to get something done, right? And so I had to do it. And lo and behold, I did it. And it was good. It was acceptable. So that started to kind of break my belief that, oh, something big has to take a long time, or I need extra time to get it done and get it done right. That was one thing. Another thing that really has helped me work on this overthinking, overplanning is recognizing that good enough is good enough. I had the tendency of needing something to be perfect. And so that's why I thought it would need to take that amount of time, because if you have more time, then you can really fine tune it and get it to a place that you want it to be. But what I was doing with the extra time in writing that paper was really just spinning my wheels and questioning whether, oh, is this the best approach to take, and really not getting any traction until it was really time for me to sit down and get it done. So that perfectionist thing can really hold you back. And so for me, I just got okay with my best effort in a shorter amount of time would have to be okay. And one thing that allowed me to get to that place of being okay with good enough is that I got in touch with a core value that is really important to me. And that is achieving with peace and calm, not working with effort that is laced with negative emotions, but putting forth effort that is laced with positive emotions, right? And really enjoying that journey. And so now anytime that I am working on something and it feels hard, like I'm pushing, and the energy and the emotions are negative, I stop and I ask myself, what am I failing to notice here? And that kind of breaks me out of that tunnel vision of I need to get this done and it needs to be a certain way, and step back from it even, stop working on it for a little bit to get some space and some perspective so that when I come back to it, I come back to it with my core value in mind. And that often means I recognize that it might not be perfect, and that's okay. And I think that is a huge lesson here. How is it that you want to experience achieving the thing that you're going for? Do you want to toil and struggle, or do you want to do it in a manner that feels more peaceful, right? And that could be something that could help you to kind of break yourself out of the perfectionistic trap if you have one. And finally, my experience has given me confidence that I don't need a whole lot of time to get certain things done. In recording these videos in the beginning, it took me a long time and I recognized I needed to start earlier. But as I started to get the hang of it and ideas would start to come to me, I recognized I didn't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I have to have 4 videos recorded so that I can get them out in time. I can do a video 3 or 4 days in advance of air date, and it's good. And it's not stressful to me, but that confidence comes from experience. But I think also, even if you don't have experience doing a certain thing that you are asked to do or that you want to do, that you can lean on the confidence that you have from other things that you do have experience doing, and recognize that you're the same person who has the ability to do something in a shorter period of time, whether that thing is slightly different. And if you can get comfortable with that, that can give you some space to stop overthinking, stop overplanning, and really look at how much time do I need to give this and go from there. Give yourself a timeline that is realistic, but is shorter than what you might normally put down for that. All right. So those are some ideas that could help you from overthinking and over-preparing and help you get to your goals in a faster, more productive way. Because just because it takes you 5 years instead of 2.5 or 3 years to make a move abroad doesn't mean that that extra time gave you any additional benefit or advantage. You might have more savings, but you might not even need that extra savings to get to where you need to be. So hopefully this video has been helpful. The question of how long does it take to reach a big goal like writing a book, or in this case where I've spoken about moving abroad, it depends. It depends on you and where you are in your life, but also how you work through your fear, your anxiety, and overthinking that can cause procrastination. All right. So that is all I have for you today. If you are interested in working through some other things that might be holding you back from making a move abroad, I'd love to have a conversation, and I'll put a link to my calendar in the description where you can schedule time to talk to me. And you can also check out these videos here that I think will be quite helpful to you. That's all I have for you today. I will see you again next time. Bye for now.